Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, make sure that you leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. A television interview and the question of stamina are central in American politics today. Tonight, President Biden will sit down with Stephanopoulos of ABC News, and he will have an opportunity when he sits down for that interview to try to dispel the image of that horrendous joint appearance with Donald Trump. Will it be enough? The answer is no. And of course, the other question is stamina. When the White House talks about Joe Biden getting to bed at a reasonable hour and limiting the amount of activity that he can have, that hardly reinforces confidence in an 81-year-old president of the United States. I understand the idea of not wanting to relinquish power. It's a very tough thing to give up power, the ultimate aphrodisiac. And Joe Biden has spent his whole life working toward being president of the United States. But the time comes when you have to stop and think. You can't have a president who works from 9 to 5. You just can't. You have to have a president who is on duty 24 hours a day and who doesn't mind being interrupted, whatever they're doing, in order to take care of the nation's business. For Joe Biden, this is a moment of truth. Truth about what his future holds. When you're 81 years old, your future is, I regret to say, somewhat limited. And although Joe Biden's experience, his ability, the great work he's done in the eyes of many in the last 3.5 years, well, it doesn't say what it will be in the next 3.5 years, the next period of his presidency. And so the pressure mounts. The issues are vast, and there is one central theme that Joe Biden has used in order to be president. His goal was to stop Donald Trump, and he did. Can he do it again? And even if he were to defeat Donald Trump in the presidential election of 2024, what about 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, and into 2029? The simple truth is we will not just be electing a president. We are making a decisive statement about where America is going to go. Now let's talk about Donald Trump for a minute. A man who clearly has his supporters, but who clearly has at least half the country opposed to his being president of the United States again. It is hardly reasonable to assume that Donald Trump can bring us together. And so tonight, we will watch George Stephanopoulos and we will watch President Biden as they sit together for an interview which may be able to assist in repairing the damage, but certainly cannot erase from the minds of America what Joe Biden did during that joint appearance. And as for Donald Trump, he is doing a very smart thing. He's keeping quiet. And that gives the Democrats the opportunity to go after each other and the issue of Joe Biden's fitness for the presidency to be front and center. Make no mistake, this election is a critical election. We say that about every election, and frankly, it's true about every election, but stop and think for a minute what this means. Joe Biden said he was tired, that he had a cold. I understand all of those things. We've all experienced what happens when you're in that condition. But when the White House couldn't even be clear about whether or not he saw his doctor after the joint appearance, first saying no and now saying yes, now talking about having to take a slower day, going to bed at a set time. This is not the way you run for president of the United States, nor does it invoke the confidence of the American people. Let me be clear. I am a supporter of Joe Biden. I've always liked him and appreciated him, and I think he's done a great job with his presidency. My problem is not that I don't have faith in Joe Biden today, but the question is, can Joe Biden withstand another 4 years as president of the United States? And maybe more important, can Joe Biden win and stop Donald Trump? This question is what hangs heavy over American politics. Frankly, we shouldn't be worried about the health of our president. We should be worried about what it would mean to have a convicted felon as president of the United States if Donald Trump were to go back to the White House. That should be the debate. And you will note that Donald Trump is waiting to announce who his vice presidential running mate will be. Believe me, that is going to add a lot of fuel to the fire. And so, my friends, we wait for tonight for a consequential sit-down with George Stephanopoulos. We wait to see whether or not Joe Biden is up to 4 more years. And frankly, it's a problem. We're going to watch, you're going to watch, and we're going to evaluate. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that this election offers 2 visions of America. The vision offered by Donald Trump and the vision offered by Joe Biden. And if Joe Biden is not the nominee, then the Democrats must rally around Kamala Harris, and she will have the remaining 4 months before the election to really rally the American people, to convince them that she's up for the job. And I have to tell you something. I can't wait, if the circumstance arises, to see Kamala Harris on the same stage with Donald Trump. It will be a fascinating moment in the history of American politics. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to share this podcast. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know through LinkedIn or, of course, through Facebook. I want to know what you think, even as you share a review on Apple Podcasts and share an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand. My special appreciation to Gogo Zoger, who produces this podcast, Around the Political World with John Rothman. It's going to be an exciting weekend. I'll be back on Monday, and I can't wait.